This is your show. The show where we take a fresh look, a new look, a look again at ourselves and the world around us. And today we are throwing out the question to you, how safe do you feel in today's world? We go to great lengths to protect ourselves. We have security systems. We have security doors. We protect ourselves with those cameras that watch our house. We maybe lock our doors, don't go out after dark. Do you feel safe? That's what we're asking today. Jerry, how about you? Do you feel safe?
Generally, I do. And one of the things that we were going to ask you, our listeners, we don't want to make this show about trying to point out where we need to be fearful or afraid. That's not the point. We want to have peace. We want to have security. But it's obvious. It's all around us. We sometimes think of big threats, big events like we see terrorist attacks and so forth in other parts of the world. But all of our neighborhoods have crime, and we all... We see things. I mean, you could go out and, get hit by a drunk driver, or when you let go of your kids' hands at the bus stop in the morning. Does anything cross your mind? Do you feel that, hey, they're in good hands? There's safety. They're secure. I just don't think there could be any problems. So, Debbie, to answer your question, I'm not preoccupied with it at all. I would say if I had to put it this way for myself, I would say there are instances where the sense of my surroundings is heightened a little bit more than, say, maybe it was 5, 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
I don't go anywhere thinking something's going to happen.
Yeah, looking over your shoulder.
I'm not safe. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Do you remember, Jerry, the day where you grew up? I grew up in New Jersey, and I know you grew up on the opposite side of the United States. But let me ask you this question: do you remember the day when our neighbors used to have their front doors open, and you would literally just walk in to your neighbor's house and say, "Hi, Mr. So-and-so," just walk in? I remember that.
Oh, yeah. We would get home from being out somewhere. Our friends would be on our couches and sitting there, and we'd leave the door open. We'd leave the door unlocked at night, windows open when we were gone. So that's a good question for those of you who are listening right now. How has your sense of personal and maybe family safety and security changed over the years, Debbie?
Right.
Because obviously when we look, things ain't what they used to be, as they say. So
That's true. I can remember picking up hitchhikers too. And now that when you drive on the freeways, it actually has signs posted, "Do not pick up hitchhikers." And again, that it can tug at your heartstrings if you're driving and you see, especially a woman and a child on the side of the road, and you're thinking, should I help them? But again, is your safety in question? And that's a good thing to think about these days, because we don't know. We really don't know. We don't want to walk around, like you said, Jerry, and constantly watching over our back to see if something's going to happen. And we do have to have that peace and security. However, we do live in a very different world than when we grew up. And so we want to hear from you, dear listeners. What is your experience about this? Do you feel safe in today's world? It could be globally all the way down to your neighborhood, whatever you want to talk about. But let's see how this plays into our Christian living and how this weaves into our spirituality. Number to dial to get in on the show is 1-800-585-9396. And we are firm believers on Take Two that when you call in and you share something, your wisdom, your experience can help another soul. And if that soul walks away closer to God, then all is accomplished. So dial in. Don't hesitate if you're prompted by the Spirit. I say that constantly because we all have those nudges that go on inside of us where we feel that internal feeling that says, call in, I've got something to say. We'll act on that because it's probably the right thing. 1-800-585-9396.
Yeah, and getting back to not being afraid, we know, I think it's been said, Debbie, I've heard this, you probably have, that the Bible talks about be not afraid.
Right.
I've heard 365 times, which is a beautiful providence on the part of God, one for every day of the year. So we do not want to be afraid. If we live our lives in fear, we will be paralyzed. We will never go out of the house. So our conversation here today, dear friends, it's really just a general kind of sense of overall security. You may live in an area where crime is high or things take place. I mean, I shared this story on the air some time back, Debbie. I called my chiropractor's office to make an appointment, and they said the line has been disconnected or no longer in service. Found another chiropractor. I inquired. I said, hey, do you happen to know what happened to this other doctor? And they said that he was killed by his brother in a dispute over who was going to inherit their mother's home.
Right.
So
right.
I'm sure, when he woke up that day,
He
furthest
didn't think
thing from
he was
his
gonna
mind.
die. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, folks, things can happen. So again, this is not, let's all talk about how afraid we are, but let's talk about maybe how we just want to be aware of our surroundings, maybe extra specially careful with our kids, things like that.
Right, right. Well, and Jerry, I've shared too what happened with Marty's brother, who was shot and killed during on his at his work. He was in the last week of his job, and he was on the side of the highway and doing his job, filling out his reports, and he was shot and killed. Now, I think the comforting thing that we learned was that his wife, my sister-in-law, said that he was right with the Lord that day when he left for work. So that brings comfort to the family to know that my brother-in-law Doug felt good. He felt in right agreement with our Lord, and that does bring us comfort. So maybe that's the lesson we need to learn on this, is to really make sure we are right with the Lord at every moment of every day, because we don't know what's going to happen, and so we are living moment to moment. And there is and actually when we have a great relationship with our Lord, then the things that happen around us really shouldn't matter, because the most centering thing we have is our relationship with God. So that's interesting. Maybe that's how it weaves into our spiritual life. 1-800-585-9396. Can you tell Jerry I was processing out loud?
All right, well, we are going to get to your phone calls in just a minute. John in Maryland is going to lead off here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Again, our phone number, please do join us, 1-800-585-9396. What about those late-night strolls, arm in arm, under the moonlight, nice summer evening? Some people have eschewed those now because they just don't want to be out at night, or keeping your doors unlocked, or your overall sense of safety and security. Let us hear from you on Take Two.
Here's Sarah, a real mom with real reasons for sending her kids to a Catholic school.
When I attended the open house when my oldest was getting ready to enter kindergarten, we were still trying to decide whether she was going to attend the public school or the Catholic school. And I walked into the kindergarten classroom and I saw the prayers on the walls that we pray at home. And I was overwhelmed with this feeling of wanting to be a part of this community. And I was really excited to hear that several of the valedictorians from the area high schools were actually from our Catholic school. And I've continued to hear since then from the high school teachers in the area that they love to get our Catholic school students because they know how to study, they know how to do their homework, they know how to treat other people respectfully, and they're just overall great people.
Contact a Catholic school near you. Take a tour and ask questions. Explore financial aid options that may be available. You just might find your own real reasons to choose Catholic education for your child. To find a Catholic school near you, visit the website for your diocese or archdiocese.
Hi, this is Barbara McWiggin.
This is Bishop Joseph Bambera of the Diocese of Scranton.
I'm Brian Patrick, EWTN News Nightly Anchor, and you're listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
We're so glad you're with us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. It makes us feel so secure, and that's what we're talking about, security today. Do you feel safe in this world, this changing world that we have that changes moment to moment? Well, as promised, John, you're up first, listening to EWTN Radio in Missouri on Covenant Radio. Hi, John. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. I love your program.
Thank you.
It's just a wonderful program. Yeah, I'm a senior citizen, and I live in an apartment in the city. And over the years, friends of mine have asked me, because they didn't have a place to stay or whatever, if they could stay at my apartment for a while. And I always felt, even though I try to be a good Christian, it's something that I can't do, because when you have friends, they'll bring other friends in that you don't know and things, and something can happen. Well, the other day, a friend of mine and neighbor left a friend come stay with him for a while who was homeless, and his friend brought other friends in, and they stole my friend's wallet and cleared his bank account out and everything. So, and no, it's unfortunate, but you have to put safety measures on things, today.
Right. John, you were wise in your course of action. I really believe, and we hear this all the time, Debbie. My pastor, Debbie, you live in, I'm not sure the exact area that you live in, but I know in Phoenix area there's a lot of elderly and seniors and snowbirds. And certainly in my parish, that's definitely the case. In this area where I live, I think about the population just about doubles during the winter time, and many of those are seniors. And I hear from my pastor, Debbie, from the pulpit, 2 or 3 times a year. He says, if you're a senior, watch out, because this is going on and this is the latest scam and so forth. And this was just simply a personal, interactive kind of thing that John's friend got caught up into, just out of the goodness of his heart, apparently.
Right. Well, John, and also you bring up exactly what we said at the beginning of the show, that we want to be good Christians. We want to do the right thing, but we also have to be cautious and be sensible in how we approach other human beings, because we don't know their intentions. And that goes all across the United States. I was sharing how I grew up in the East Coast, and Jerry grew up on the West Coast of the United States, but I'm sure we all had the same kinds of situations happen where you may hear of somebody who is in need and it sounds good, but when you get them to where they are part of your life, it doesn't turn out that way. We don't know what people's intentions are, and that's unfortunate. But it sounds to me, John, that you're, like Jerry said, very wise about how you conduct your life, and it does sound like you're a great Christian where you want to help others. I've always opted for this, though, John. If I can't physically help another person, I can pray for them, and that prayer is powerful. And I take comfort in knowing that, and I'm sure you do that as well, John. Right?
And also, one thing I found very beneficial. I can't really, fast because I'm a diabetic, but I offer up my pain and suffering for them too.
John, that's huge, though. John, this is what I think we forget as Christians, because we can't tangibly touch something or put a value to it. We somehow feel that fasting and prayer doesn't mean anything. It means everything. And John, that's beautiful that you do that. That is truly one of the greatest gifts you can give another. So that's awesome, John. And we're so glad you liked the show too. That made our day.
I try to listen to it every day.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you for that. Pray for us. Will you do that? We'll keep you in our prayers.
I sure will, Debbie. I sure will, because I know, when you're doing God's work and ministering to other people, the evil and one in his cohorts, can really try to throw you.
That's right. Yeah. That's
very,
right, John.
very serious things. So yes, I certainly will pray for you.
Thank you, John. You'll be in our prayers along with your friend who suffered this unfortunate loss of some of his possessions, his bank account, and so forth. Thank you, John, for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. That will free up a phone line. Please do join us. Our number 1-800 800-585-9396. That number works anywhere throughout the United States. 800-585-9396. Talking about safety today, and not wanting to focus on fear or the negative, but as Debbie and I shared early in the program, I know my outlook, Debbie, has changed so very, very much. I'm 55, so grew up in the 70s and went to high school, and just there was this. We used to look at the things that we used to look at back then that were awful and scandalous and all this stuff, are just almost
mild
garden variety today.
Yeah.
So there have been a lot of changes, and folks, as you're listening, how has your awareness and your desire to be safe and take whatever reasonable precautions are necessary in your life? Share that at 800-585-9396.
Jerry, you were talking about at the beginning of the show about fear is paralyzing, and I agree with that completely, that when we get stuck in and weighed down with a sense of fear that overwhelms us, it does keep us stuck, and we can't advance. We can't grow even spiritually when we're fear based. And we know fear is not of God. So when it's not of God, who is it from? Well, obviously it's from the dark side. So we have to be really aware that fear can creep into our lives, and it's not a healthy thing. And so I think that's important to keep emphasizing during the show, that we're just talking about taking a pulse on really what's happening in our society and in our world, and how it's changed, and how we do have to maybe shift our attitudes and our outlook just so that we can take those precautions to be safe. So the number to dial to get in on this conversation is 1-800-585-9396. How safe do you feel in today's world? Share with us. Maybe you are waking up in the morning and you're still one of those wonderful people who have all of your windows open and your doors open, and you're just letting the breeze in and you're okay with everything. We want to hear how come. I mean, maybe you live in an area where you have block watch systems set up which are so sound that you feel very confident. Maybe you have such a strong faith that nothing's going to shake it. No, there's not going to be anything in this world that's going to shake your faith and keep you in an unsettled situation. So we want to hear from you. We can learn. 1-800-585-9396.
There are studies that come out all the time, Deb, and we'll get back to the calls in a minute. I was looking at one that said, I believe if I had the information correct, about a little over a third of Americans don't feel safe going outside their homes at night. Mm-hmm. And when you think about that, it's so unfortunate, because God, His beauty is to be seen and to be held during the day and in the evening with the moon and the stars. And it's really unfortunate, some of the circumstances that man has created, mm-hmm. that we have created for ourselves. And so it's just really, some of these things are very, very unfortunate. And I would hope that we would all just strive and pray for one another's safety and security, and be watchful for one another.
Right. Well, I'll tell you this, Jerry. Years ago, when I was raising the kids, I would run out to Walgreens or Target or Walmart or any of those stores that were open late at night to pick up something, and I wouldn't even think twice. I would hop in the car, run up to the store, park the car, run into the store, run out, not even think anything of it. Nowadays, I will tell you that when it's dark out, I am one of those people now that look for park my car under a bright light, and I will walk in and wait for other people to be walking into the store, so I'll walk along with them, even though we're not talking or chatting. I'll just pretend like I'm walking along with them and walk out with people in the store, not to go out to the car alone. So I have changed my behavior a lot since, you can't help but just naturally have that absorb into your daily routine, because we watch the news and every day something is happening. Carjacking stuff is happening. And so I do think times have changed, and how we respond to that really, tells what kind of world we're living in. But okay, it's Ian who's waiting so patiently in Alabama, listening to EWTN Radio on Archangel Radio. Hi, Ian. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, it's been a while.
Hi.
How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing good. I heard you talking about the news just a couple seconds ago. I watched the news too. I hate that I'm hearing all this. Somebody is killing somebody with a gun, a knife, or a machete every day. And we just stand by. Most people just stand by, but I'm glad that the church likes to do something about that.
Right. Ian, first of all, it's so good to hear from you. Thanks for checking in with us. We were wondering how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good. Okay, huh?
Go ahead.
No, okay. I was going to say, Ian, do you turn off the news or do you watch it or what do you do? Do you say a prayer after you watch the news and you see what's happening in the world or tell us a little bit more about your thoughts after watching the news.
My thoughts are, why do you do this to our protectors? I mean, we're not shooting blacks because we don't like them. We're only shooting them because they are acting abusively against us. And I'm not trying to get into deep politics, but that's my thoughts on it when we're talking about this. Blue Lives Matter, and I hate that we have that because we wouldn't have it if none of this crap was going on. Excuse my language for anybody who doesn't support that word.
Well, Ian, you raised some interesting points here. I would think we would just want to be circumspect, and allow for the proper reviews of these situations that you did refer to with some of the police shootings and so forth, for the investigations and the reviews to carry out. And quite frankly, we could change direction with the whole show here, but I think it's very understandable that certain groups of people can become frustrated and feel that they are being targeted when perhaps maybe they're not. But Debbie, that gets into a whole, as Ian used the word, getting political there. I think the whole racial thing is a very political hot potato right now, and obviously it's not the topic of our show today. But Ian, you use that as one example of what he's talking about. Right,
but let's share with our listeners, Ian. So for our listeners' sake, again, tell us your age again.
10.
Okay, so you're 10 years old, Ian, and you're seeing this in the world where it something doesn't look right to you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something doesn't look right. And
I know.
Yeah, and
anything looks right to me anymore.
Okay, but see, Ian, this is important because you're the future of this world. Okay, you're 10 years old, and in about 11 years, you're going to be off and running into the world, making a living and doing your vocation or your work or whatever God inspires you to do. And at 10 years old, you're seeing that things are not right. And this is a good lesson for all of us as adults that are listening to you, Ian, that if our children are seeing this and absorbing this and it doesn't feel right to them, it doesn't seem right, then we as adults who are leaders right now should be doing something. And thank you, Ian, for saying that the church does do something. You're absolutely right. The church is very constant and the church is very permanent and definitely speaks to and holds the values and never wavers. We know that the Knights of Columbus are out there really trying hard with commercials to get the word out of what the truth is. So the Knights of Columbus is doing their work as well. And Ian, it's good that you noticed that. But for all of us, I think your call speaks deeply to every one of us that we need to wake up as adults and realize our children are absorbing all of this and it doesn't feel right. And I don't mean to overgeneralize, but I would say that I've heard it before, Ian, in your age group. A lot of kids your age feel the same way. Something doesn't. It just feels off. So, Ian, I appreciate your candidness and how honest you are. And you know what? I don't think you need to even apologize for being so blunt. I love your bluntness, and I think it's great. It's refreshing, believe it or not. I might have not used some of the slang words that you use, but that's okay. I mean, because here's the thing: you're a great kid, and you call in to Take Two, and you love Take Two, and we love you, Ian. So thank you for your comments.
All right, phone number is 800-585-9396. The gospel reading at Mass today was, "We are all called to turn and be like little children." So we thank Ian for his call. We've got Alan and Ken and the others on the line listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Brian Patrick with your EWTN Newslink. The parents of 2 Americans killed in attacks in Benghazi, Libya, file a wrongful death lawsuit. It claims Hillary Clinton's negligent and reckless use of a private email server as Secretary of State compromised the American security. Clinton visits a Miami neighborhood dealing with the first U.S. outbreak of Zika. The Democratic presidential candidate calls on Congress to return to Washington and pass emergency funding to counter the virus. Delta Airlines cancellations and delays caused by a computer system failure spill over into a second day. Delta says its computer system is back up today, but it will scrap at least several hundred flights. Some stranded customers are being offered refunds and vouchers. And Pope Francis sends his condolences after an attack on a hospital in Quetta, Pakistan, leaves more than 70 people dead. A telegram sent by the Vatican Secretary of State says the Holy Father offers assurance of his prayers. I'm Brian Patrick with your EWTN Newslink. Watch EWTN News Nightly tonight.
Anna Mitchell here, inviting you to join me each weekday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time for the Sunrise Morning Show on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. You'll hear compelling interviews with interesting Catholics from around the country and the world, news from the Catholic perspective, plus reflections on the daily Mass readings and much more. Weekday mornings, 6 a.m. Eastern.
The Sunrise Morning Show. Can't wait to start your day.
Thanks for joining us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network, and we're asking you, how safe do you feel in today's world? We just heard from Ian in Alabama. He's one of our youngest listeners who we just love, and he shared from his heart how he feels about safety in this world. Well, we want to hear from you, so don't forget to dial in. You got time before the end of the show at 1-800-585-9396. Okay, we're going to go to Brenda in Rochester, New York, listening to EWTN Radio on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Brenda. Welcome to Take Two.
Wow, I didn't expect to be called so quickly. Hi, Debbie.
Hi.
Okay. I just wanted to tell Ian, God bless him for calling in. But, darling, don't spend so much time listening to the news. The media is about hype. I am an African American, a Black American. Most of us are not behind this so-called Black Lives movement. First of all lives matter. Mm-hmm. Most of us love the police and are stand very firmly behind our police department and police personnel. In fact, here in Rochester, we had a wonderful event at one of the local Walmart stores. For 2 hours, there was a Hug a Cop event. It was wonderful. People of every stripe came out to give our wonderful men and women in blue big hugs. So, Ian, the world is not as awful as the media makes it look. It really is not. And yes, I am a bit cautious when I go out, but that's why I love the men and women in blue, because I know if something happens, I can call 911.
Amen.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Brenda, it was like I said with Ian's call, it would have kind of changed the whole direction of the program to go down that road.
But he did, and that's why I wanted to say, honey, stay away from the news.
Right.
But
I did want to just your comments have reminded me of a couple things I did want to say when Ian was on, and that is, it's tragic when all Black lives are lumped together with if there's a Black man or a woman who commits a crime, dies in the act of doing that or something. It's tragic in and of itself, but all of a sudden, it becomes all black lives get lumped together. And when a white Caucasian, say, police officer or somebody kills somebody, I get angry because then all eyes are looking at all white people, and I'm saying, wait a minute, that's not me. And Brenda, you're saying that's not you. And so we need to come together and have the events like you were talking about and have honest dialogue, because I think there are people, especially as you pointed out, Brenda, in the media, I believe, who do not want the issue of racism to settle down. I think they want to keep stirring it up, and it gets ratings, it causes chaos. I don't know. I just have some opinions on that. Debbie, I don't know if you've got any thoughts, but...
No, I just want to say, Brenda, you said it so beautifully at the start of your call, and I just pray that you have the opportunity to have a microphone in your hand at all times, because I think you have, well, first of all, your heart, it comes through loud and clear when you're speaking. You just seem like just the most amazing lady, and I think you need to be out there in public more and educating all of us and the younger generation. And you brought to mind something that I had said, that as leaders of this country right now, because we are the adults, we have to be held accountable. But Brenda, I'm going to shift that a bit, because you're right. We need to hold media accountable, because what they're doing is they're tarnishing our youth with their skewed news and their different pieces that they want to push that are agenda driven, and we need to hold media accountable. So that really helped me to remind me, Brenda, and I hope it reminds others. And I would love to hear any further comments you have to say.
It's part of the media, and it's also the people who have made a living at doing these sort of things. Mm-hmm. You see the same people at a lot of these events, and they're not trying to come together or work with the police. They just want to divide. And you look around in your everyday life, and you don't see people acting that way. Most people are baffled by this so-called Black Lives Matter movement. In my age group, I'm about your age, Debbie, this is like a throwback to the 60s. It's like, where did this come from?
Right.
And if you do your research, you would probably say, oh, now it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
yeah, you're right.
Most people don't support that because it doesn't even make sense. How do you say one group lives matter? And is it Black lives only matter if there's something to do with police, something negative to do with police? What about when we shoot each other and kill each other?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Ian, enjoy your life. The media is slanted towards sensationalism.
Amen.
And most of us don't live there.
Yeah, you're a wise woman, Brenda. Very wise. Oh, one thing I just wanted to say, I've often said this, and you just reminded me. Why do we always talk about lives and we separate and we put labels on different lives? Why don't we just say all souls matter? And why don't we...
from the womb to the tomb.
That's right.
Why I love being Catholic.
Amen. Me too. Well, love you, Brenda.
Heart, Brenda.
Thank you.
You too. God bless.
Thanks. God bless you for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. All right, over to Alan, who is driving on Interstate 94, and it doesn't say where. Maybe Alan can give us an update on his progress on the road here. Alan, listening to EWTN radio in the car. Hi, Alan. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey,
sure.
I'm going to say chime in to the last few callers that I've heard. I agree, and I'd like to mention also Ian. Great call, man. I mean, for kids that age to call in means a lot to me, because so much that we hear about, and just like what you guys just said, the media. I tell you, media is really, there's a good part of it and there's a bad part of it, but I think that the media is really playing on how we view things in life today compared to, I'm 59 years old, and there was a day that media didn't seem to outcast situations that we face today. And, we got different types of media. We've got the internet system and how it plagues us in our decisions and what we do. And so, like I was saying earlier, there used to be a time when I didn't have the responsibilities that I do now, and so I viewed helping people in a different manner because I believe and felt that, well, the Lord will take care of me. And not that he doesn't do it now, but we have different situations. I think we all can agree with that, different situations today than what a lot of us dealt with in the years past. And I believe the Bible teaches us, that we do need to be conscious of our surroundings and our situations. We just can't go out there with an attitude that, and I don't know how to explain this, but careless, I guess, would be the correct thing, a careless attitude, but yet an attitude that we still love those that are in need and those that are care, but we still have a responsibility within ourselves also, that we just don't be careless of what we do to help us.
Alan, I think you've really summed up what I had hoped this conversation would be about today, and that is not draping ourselves in fear and walking out the door and looking both ways 10 different times and getting in our car and driving to the store and looking in front and behind. Is something going to happen? No. But you have said just simply being conscious of surroundings, being responsible living in today's world where things have gotten a little bit more dangerous than they once were. And I wanted to comment, too, on your thoughts about the media. Anyone who watches any of the mainstream nightly newscasts, you will see, and I typically don't, but I was watching Olympics yesterday, and it kind of segued right into the news. You will see, watch the stories. It's fear, 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 followed by fear, fear, and then fluff. They called it the puff piece. That last little cute story, that feel-good story that they end on all the time about this, very real good feel-good story. And so I guess that's psychologically supposed to make you say, I want to come back tomorrow night and listen again or watch again. But throughout the whole newscast, you've just been bombarded with reasons to be afraid. So anyway, I agree with those who have said be very, very judicious in your media consumption. Debbie, I don't know if you got.
No, I was just going to say that's why we need Catholic radio stronger more than ever. I mean, Catholic radio, at least we know we're going to get consistent, the gospel message 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We know it's the truth, and so that's where we should turn to. That should be our safety net. Alan, thank you so much. I'm just curious, Alan. It was driving on I-94. Where are you driving to? Just curious.
Left Mandan and going to Glendive, Montana.
Oh, man, but that's a beautiful drive.
Nice.
Yeah, well, this will be my first drive today. Usually I drive up to Williston Airport, deliver fuel up that way. But today I get to go to Glendive, so a little change of pace. And with this radio station, I get to enjoy the drive even more so. So I really appreciate you guys. It's, like I said, what you say and what you share means a lot to all of our existence because, the Bible teaches us about fear. And so I think we need to also pay attention to that and how that fear is dealt with.
Right. Thanks, Alan. Thanks for the kind words and safe driving and hope to hear from you again soon. Wow. We have the greatest listeners and supporters of Take Two and EWTN. This is so wonderful. Okay, Roger, you are up next. You are listening to EWTN Radio in Indiana on Redeemer Radio. Hi. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
Yeah, hi. Oh, hi. Yeah. The reason, I hear you guys when I can. The reason I called, you were talking about fear, and I've had an unusual string of really bad events in the last, 9 or 10 months. There was an unwanted divorce at the end of last year, and then 10 deaths this year, including my mother, my son, son-in-law's grandmother, a couple really close friends. And so it's like the last death was Tuesday, and it was a tragic car accident. So, get in my car. Well, first about 3 days, I didn't want to get in a car. Then I get in my car and I drive, and I think I got to be like, I'm going to be hyper cautious, so anxious. Am I going to make this trip? And I mean, so many bad things have happened to my life. Then it's like in the midst of all this grief, searching for greater peace, but, daily mass when I can, confessions frequently, talk to priests and a counselor and go to grief groups and whatever, liturgy hours with the church in the morning, that kind of thing. But like before this, like if somebody, I've been around death, but before this, you hear about all these things in the Middle East, North Africa, North Korea, where people are killed or whatever. And it's a distance, there's a separation, that kind of, but like this is up close and in person. And so I become very aware of the fragility of life, how brief it is. And so how do you deal with kind of the anxiety and fear that comes on when you have so many things happen in such a short time? And
yeah, Roger.
I was going to say, when my son died, I found his body. He died by suicide, and I found his body. And so that's really up close and in person.
It is, Roger, and you have our condolences, and I know we don't even have to ask Take Two with Jerry and Debbie listeners to be praying for you. I'm sure they're already leaped into action and gotten on their knees, if only figuratively, and are praying for you and all that you have been through recently. So please know that we will really, really be praying. This is a lot to endure, and reminds me of a caller we had a few shows ago, who Debbie, you may recall, had suffered similar, a whole string of losses. And Roger, I don't know what the answer is. I think it's obviously, it sounds so, the words can roll off a tongue so easily, but deep trust at a time like this in God, and it may not be easy to come by. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, well, just trust in God, Roger, and everything's going to be okay, because I have not been through the types and the number of losses that you have been. I've had some and some difficult situations, and I know what it's like to have difficulty trusting in God, even looking at God, saying, God, what is going on? Why are you allowing all this to happen? So if you have an adoration chapel that you can get to, spend time there if you can every day, get to daily mass. But also, as Debbie especially likes to encourage people to surround yourself with people who are going to be able to uplift you and add joy to your life and peace, and to maybe help you grieve. You may just need a shoulder just to open up and flood with your tears every now and then, but having encouraging and supportive people around you, I think, is really going to be important for you at this time.
Well said, Jerry. Perfectly said. And Roger, the only thing I would add is that when you have an overwhelming sense of grief around you and death that has happened around your life and those that you love, I think there just it's a strong reminder for all of us to live in the moment. Every moment is a gift, and it's a huge neon sign that's blinking in front of us that just wakes us up and says, live in the moment. God is in the moment. He's not in the past, and we can't worry about the future, and we have to take moment to moment, and that's all that matters. That's the only thing because there's no way you can make sense of when so much sadness hits you all at once, Roger. It's hard to make sense of it. And really words can't even help, because the grief that you're feeling and the sadness, it's overwhelming. And some people deal with it. Some people have that happen to them, like you, Roger, with deaths around them. Some people have emotional deaths around them constantly, and it's that same internal feeling of it overwhelms the being and the heart and the soul of saying to yourself, what sense comes out of this? Well, how can I make sense of this? What does this mean? And the only thing you can go back to is the moment. The moment is precious. So I don't know if what Jerry said or what I said speaks to you, Roger, but we hope it brings you some sense of hope.
Yeah, especially if people are praying. See, I haven't lost my faith in that. In fact, I've found that every day I'm acutely aware of how much I rely on God and need God. like sometimes there'll be a day, I have good days and bad days. Parts of the day will be good or bad, changes. And there are times where it's just overwhelming. I say, God, it's just overwhelming. I can't deal with it. I surrender it to you. Sometimes I say, God, I can't let go of this. I don't have the ability just to let go. So you just gently unwrap my fingers and take it. And, but yeah, the God is the same in the end. But it doesn't take away the overwhelmingness of it all.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you feel the prayers around you from all of us,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
yeah, we believe in the power of prayer, Roger. So please know that at least you can take comfort in knowing that there's others around you lifting you up in prayer, and your family as well.
Yeah, and keep your radio tuned right here, Roger, to EWTN Radio. There's uplifting and inspiring and really consoling programs throughout the day. There's Daily Mass, there's the Rosary, Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and all kinds of shows like that. And so we just really encourage you to keep listening and get that inspiration, that spiritual food that we all need and that you really especially may have a need for right now with all that you've been going through. Thank you, Roger, for joining us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to go over to Ashtabula, Ohio. Maria, listening to EWTN Radio there. Maria, thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, Jerry. How are you?
Good, Maria. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I wanted to build a little bit on what Ian had to say from a disabled person's standpoint.
Okay.
I mean, that yes, you know, the politicians, you know, where I think Obama's forgetting, you know, that the blacks aren't the only ones here. And I would also say, you know, that Father Larry Richards has something good going with his theme here. No Bible, no breakfast, no Bible, no bed.
I haven't heard that before, but
I have,
that
yeah.
sounds like, you have? Sounds like something Father Larry would say.
Oh, yeah, it's Father Larry.
So, Maria, what does that mean for you then? You read a little bit of Bible before you eat breakfast and a little before you go to bed?
That's why I read, you know, the last time I talked to you was about where's your Bible or what's your Bible.
Okay.
You know, it's been over a month since I talked to you guys.
Right, we remember. Maria, let me ask you this question. So when you heard Ian speak, because we're having a lot of texts and a lot of emails come in that said they really appreciate when our younger generation really just talks from their heart and expresses how they feel, because those of us that are in the world as adults, we unfortunately have to somehow comply with the politically correct culture that we live in, but our children are still so innocent and they just speak from their heart. So would you agree with the takeaway that we shared with Ian, that the media really needs to be accountable, and we as adults need to really...
Not only them, the government needs to be held accountable.
Yeah. So all leaders then, people that have a voice in this world.
Well, yes, because... You know, I do not approve of the government, you know, of the states that want to get rid of lives, you know, for whatever stupid reason. And, Jerry, you live in one of the states that do.
That's right.
I mean,
well, Maria,
you know, that would be my biggest concern about your question for safety, you know, about... Okay, well, Medicaid's getting tired of paying for a blind person or somebody that has cerebral palsy when there is so much you can learn from these disabled people, just like there is so much you can learn from a child.
Right.
That's right.
All souls matter. That's right.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Maria, thank you for the call. Really appreciate that. Good to hear from you again, and we hope that you'll keep listening. And join us again from Ashtabula. We're going to keep you in our prayers, and we ask that you do the same for us as well. I just want to toss a comment in there real quickly, Debbie, about what Maria said regarding politicians, and we've talked a lot about the media on today's program. We know the scripture passage, to whom much is given, much is expected. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're given the office of the President of the United States, one of the most powerful positions in the world, if you're given the position by God, as the anchor of a major network newscast or any of these things. It can be any public office. The higher, of course, I think the greater the responsibility, and the same in the media. I mean, we're just little old Catholic radio hosts trying to make a difference. We don't have millions of viewers every night. So my point simply being, by God's providence, He has willed or allowed that certain politicians make the decisions that they do, the media say and do the things that they do. So with that comes a very, very grave responsibility. And I think it wouldn't be a bad time right now to encourage young people who are listening, maybe aspire to politics to make a positive difference. Aspire to be in the media and make your voice heard and make a difference. Now, those are two very, very difficult fields for anybody, Debbie, who has strong moral and especially Catholic, conscience and Catholic values. But if we just simply roll over and flee from those areas of life where the decisions are all being made and the information is being disseminated, then we have lost the battle. So
that's right.
So as Debbie said, support EWTN Radio, your local Catholic station, and keep them on the air. If we lose this place at the media table, Debbie, it would be a gaping loss. Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I just want to remind our listeners that we pick a short take after every show, and that is a call that has come in that really just really embodies what we were trying to lead the discussion. Now you guys lead the discussion, but the discussion does go to a certain point where we kind of think it's going to end up, which we hope it would, when we picked the topic. So the call that came in that we usually take a little short take from it. So please make sure you check back on EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page and even take2show.com. And Ian, if you're listening, get your friends, all your friends, to like EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page. We're only about 700 likes away from 10,000, and we can celebrate together. So all you young people out there who are on Facebook 24 hours a day, like EWTN Catholic Radio
Ice
Facebook
cream for
page.
everyone.
That's right.
Ice cream for everyone.
And Jerry, what about take2show.com? Don't forget to look for that bright yellow JD button. You can hit that link, go to the Jerry and Debbie site. You can leave your prayer intentions on the prayer wall. You can pick up the One Faith Experience DVD that just came out. It's on sale, 25% off. It's pretty awesome.
Holy
Jerry.
Land Rosaries. Holy Land Rosary is still available. Thanks for listening. Tomorrow, where is my money going when you drop that envelope in the basket at church? Or if you're like me, I have it set up electronically, automatic withdrawal through Parish Pay. Do you ever wonder, where is my money going? What is it used for? In the end, we shouldn't really care, but it's a discussion worth having, Debbie, so we'll have that conversation tomorrow.
Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.